згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці запанує, і ми, браття, у своїй сторонці.
The war came in my native Lugansk in 2014. One day in June, soldiers without insignias possessed the campus of my university. Next day, there were shooting sounds in the city. My sociology student was a National Guard soldier and reported me his experience of the attack on the military unit. Another of my students, Dmitry Gavrishko, was killed under shelling in taxi car near bus station. Fighter jets flew over the city loudly and attacked the captured administration building. The popular ATB supermarket supply refrigerator trucks transported not products anymore, but dead bodies.
I'm trying not to think about the war. I don't read news from the front. I'm not talking about the war. I close the door. I don't want to write about the war. This project makes no sense. Nothing makes sense.
We decided to leave the city, went through the battle zone and saw the pillars of smoke, ominous signs of heavy battles around. It was checkpoints on the way, particularly in Donetsk, where armed people stopped our car and it was a danger that they just shoot or capture us. Sedatives didn't help to reduce the intensive fear. That year, in 2014, we lost everything. Newly bought house, job, friends and family members stayed in Lugansk. The next years, we changed several cities and jobs. Our daughter grew up in those transitions. My wife visited Lugansk later in 2014 to meet her parents and take some necessary things. On the way back, their car was attacked by the armored vehicle, but they survived. We crossed the front line near Mariupol again together in 2017 to visit our native city, but I found it too dangerous to do it anymore. Shellings were close to the checkpoint.
Bombs are falling. It does not make sense. Just consume your short life. Sweet drugs of pop culture. I got the comics, Doomsday Clock. On the first page I read, Russian troops are entering Poland. The Third World War begins. Firing bombs. Atomic mushroom and all the plant. Fuck me. Bombs explode. Bombs fall. Do they make any sense?
We spent 6 years on the Black Sea coast, in the city of Odessa. I changed my job again and moved to Kiev, waiting for my family there and preparing a new apartment to turn another page of our nomadic life. On the February 24th, I was woken up at 5 a.m. by a phone call from my wife. She worriedly said that the war began, and in a few minutes I heard the explosions nearby. The building seems to be shaking and hundreds of cars signaled and blinked in the neighborhood.
The incomprehensible view. People shot while riding a bicycle. Bodies lying in an empty street. What is this? These words and images shock me. How could such monstrosity be allowed to happen?
This war, which broke out February 24th, 2022 with Russia's aggression against Ukraine, is in me and I'm in it. At night, I cannot sleep. I dream of the war. I dream that I'm running away to the shelter. and when I get out of it, my home is already gone.
Hello, this is Poland speaking. Here in Poland we have women, children, old people and pets from Ukraine in our homes. In our homes, the stories of their bloody breasts are poured out. So don't say the faithful nonsense. Stay safe from afar and shut it, if you cannot watch it for yourself. Don't lie to us that there is no war going on, because history does not forget liars, and it repeats itself.
In the first darkest period of war, I was trying to survive under the shellings. Had almost no sleep for 5 days and sheltered in the bedroom or metro station. I evacuated to Western Ukraine by train at the beginning of March. Endless flows of refugees were around, and the Lviv train station looked like an apocalyptic scene. My family evacuated abroad, but men were prohibited to leave. I miraculously found a place to stay in a small town and spent the next 2 months with nearly agoraphobic fear. Will I survive in this war and meet my family ever again? Was and still is the most repeating question. The biological instinct of self-preservation surpassed for a while the social part of my homo duplex personality. I hadn't been called to the military service yet and continued my teaching activities online. The feelings of hope, inner strength, and self-control were restored gradually.
On the day of deep depression, a friend from Buddhist Sangha shared with me a sentence from Zen master Andrzej Getsugen-Krajewski. And he said, "The emotions we experience during the war in Ukraine are like missiles passing through us. We have to be careful that they don't explode inside us."
When I look at my garden, I wonder whether my fatally shot body would rest there. Would I avoid being raped before I got killed? Could I kill if I had to defend my daughter? In every place in the house, I see people parting, husbands from wives, daughters and sons from fathers, granddaughters and grandsons from their grandparents. These thoughts and images never leave me alone. 2 women, mothers of 6-year-old children, come to stay with us in our home. One of them is a mother of a boy, the other of a girl.
Yesterday evening, the television told me that 73 days of war has passed. What does it mean, and for whom? As I write these words, I sit in a cozy office from where I looked out the window enjoying the rays of the rising sun. I hear the singing of the blackbird and other birds who are announcing the reign of spring. It came late this year. Cold mornings can still be felt. I quieten down. Submission to the harmony flowing from nature gradually puts me in a contemplative mood, and this seems to be indecently paradoxical. Moving on the layers of memory, I involuntarily juxtapose it with images and sounds of war with which I filled myself some time ago. What defines this sum? I have the impression that during the aforementioned 73 days of war, I imperceptibly shifted myself between opposite poles, condensation and delusion of perception of war experience.
A week after the start of the fighting, 2 wonderful women entered Poland through Slovakia, Nastya and Natasha. They were a ray of my life, although their rays of happiness and family warmth remained in the bombarded heart of Poltava and Gdańsk. I finished work at 5, and my favorite question around the hour was "Obidiaty?" That was our ritual. 3 women were sitting around the table and talking about the war. Nastya has become an expert. One could say she became a pomologist. She knew everything. Where the Ukrainian troops are located, where from the missiles are flying, bombing not only her beloved Kharkiv, but also other cities in the eastern Ukraine.
I decided to live on, overcoming the abnormal situation by stubbornly leading a normal life. However, the more I try to lose the sight of the Russian crimes, the more I am not able to live my own ordinary life. I even developed a kind of adaptation mechanism. As long as I stay in the office, I function normally. And as soon as I leave the work mode, my mind is taken over by the hell of Ukrainian woman.
War affected me so much, so deeply. It changed my experience of another human being. Girls brought me warmth and support that I didn't have before. I feel strange saying all this. This is more about me than about the war. Is it moral? Is it moral to leave the war in the background of the story? I wonder how many people have experienced something like that. 7 million refugees from Ukraine? 7 million of such stories? I want to think about everything else but the war. I don't want its presence. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to know it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to feel it. I want to live. I can live. I desire to live. I'm no longer able to cry over what is happening abroad. My body reminds me of compassion for the Ukrainians every time my tenants come to me with some terrible, incomprehensible news, and then I shudder. However, much more often, I experience a headache, owing to the lack of the solitude, the lack of opportunity of being alone with myself, being alone with my children, husband, dog, or the sound of the ticking clock.
Cat rescued from Ukraine meows that he wants to eat.
Starting from the cut-off date, February 24, 2022, I was applying a filter of war on everything around myself. As I reconstruct those moments, at this point, I see the omnipotence of seating myself, or being seated, in a monochromatic spiral of feelings. The subject of war and what fills it, blood, pain, suffering, and finally death without culpability, obsessed my thoughts and body. I was not able, only now I know it, to free myself from it, or maybe I didn't want to. And then suddenly, is it really suddenly, metaphorically speaking, I heard birds singing, and I saw the rays of the rising sun. Again, without the bomb explosions and the resulting smoke obscuring the sun, perceptual overlays, creating a specific character of the world turned upside down. Have I become a man of reverse order? I ask myself.
I came back to Kiev in May. It had been still a February on my paper calendar yet. I looked on the city through a window, taped crosswise to protect against the glass shard. This literary crossed view has symbolic dimensions, with iron anti-tank hedgehogs that block both the city roads and the life perspective, since the future is indefinite. It is the crosses on the thousands of graves that erase this perspective eternally.
The world is the visible of the invisible. The invisible shows up in the fears, crimes, rapes, thefts, and wickedness. Finally, you can see it and feel who we are. Supposedly, culture is needed to soothe instincts. We need culture. I agree. But what culture? Whose culture? When culture appears, it often reveals itself as a preparation of justification for atrocities, as an aesthetic elevation of the views of crime, blood, corpses, and human remains. Collectives are full of beasts.
No!
Yes,
No.
very good.
It's a spring. I don't see flowers in Bucha, Mariupol, in the pictures. I can't see. They can't see. But some flowers are still there. I go to the balcony. It's a dark May night. Lilies of the valley.